This is Soul Signal, where the soul comes to rest. My name is Patrice. In a moment, a story will begin. You don't need to do anything with it. You don't need to remember it or carry it or learn from it. Only let it move through you, the way water moves through open hands. I want to tell you a little bit about where I'm talking from tonight. I'm 55. I moved across the country earlier this year, alone. And I mean that in the full way, not just geographically. I have lived with someone in some capacity for every single year of my life up until now. A mother, a daughter, family on the other side of a shared wall. There was always another body in the building. Not always present, not always easy, but there. This is the first time in 55 years that the only heartbeat I'm responsible for at night is my own. I didn't know what to do with that kind of quiet. But I'll tell you what made me go. When I came back to New York after 4 weeks in Texas, something had shifted. The sky looked different. I don't know how else to say it. Darker, heavier, like something had been turned down. And I realized I wasn't imagining it. Texas had light in it that New York didn't have anymore. Or maybe New York always had that weight and I just couldn't see it until I'd been somewhere that didn't. Either way, I knew. Not logically, in my body. The way you know things before you can defend them. So I went. And the move itself, it wasn't clean. Nothing about it was clean. The first apartment wasn't ready. The second had a neighbor who made it impossible to rest. I ended up sleeping in a hotel, wearing foam slippers to move around my own home so I wouldn't make my presence known. By the time I got to where I am now, I just wanted somewhere I could call mine. And I love it. I do. But even here, even after all of that, I showed up and found out they turned off the HVAC during the tour. The noise was there the whole time. They just hid it. I thought, of course. And then I stayed anyway. Because at some point, you stop waiting for the perfect conditions to arrive. You just land. That's what I want to talk about tonight. I want to tell you something. I've been in this particular kind of tired. Not the tired that sleep fixes. The other kind. The kind where you do everything right. You show up, you follow through, you hold it together, and then you lie down at night and something in you just doesn't know how to stop. That's where I want to start tonight. Not with answers. I don't have the full picture yet, honestly. But I've been sitting with this long enough that I think I know what some of it is. And I thought it might help to not sit with it alone. There was a night, not that long ago actually, in a hotel room. I was traveling. That stretch of days that blur together. Airports and lobbies and the particular exhaustion of performing competence when you don't feel very competent. You know that feeling? When you're doing the job, doing it fine, but there's this slight delay between you and yourself. Like you're watching from one step back. I sat down on the edge of the bed. And I just stayed there. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't start making a list. I just sat. And the thought that came, quiet, not dramatic, was, nothing feels permanent anymore. Not the bed, not the city outside, not the version of me sitting in that room. And the strange thing, I wasn't afraid. I was just aware. And a little confused by my own lack of panic. I kept waiting for a breakdown that looked like a breakdown. That's what I expected. Something with a clear before and after. Something you could point to. But that's not what happened. It just loosened. Quietly. Over time. Like a seam in a coat you've worn for so long you forgot it was ever stitched together. You look down one day and there's a gap. You press the edges together and think, I should deal with that. And then you don't. Because you're busy. Because it's not a crisis. It's just a small gap. And then one day the gap is wider. And you realize it's been coming undone for much longer than you knew. A job that stops fitting. Not with a crisis, not with a clear moment, just a slow drift between the shape of the work and the shape of who you're becoming. You sit in a meeting you've sat in 100 times and feel adjacent to yourself. Doing everything right and not sure anymore if that's enough to hold you there. A city that starts to feel borrowed, or a relationship, or a version of yourself you've been wearing because it's what other people know how to count on. The capable one. The one who holds it together. The one you can call. Those things were real. I built real things from them. But somewhere they started to feel like clothes from an earlier version of me, still in the closet, still wearable, just not quite the right fit anymore. A little tight across the chest, a little heavy in the shoulders. And I kept wearing them. Because the woman who wears those clothes is the woman other people rely on. And I didn't know yet what was underneath. That's the part no one talks about. When you're high functioning, you don't collapse. You adjust. You keep moving. You answer the emails and you show up, and you are, by all visible measures, fine. And then you lie down at night, and your nervous system, which has been working very, very hard, doesn't know how to stop. The jaw holds something. The chest doesn't quite open all the way. The mind keeps reaching. One more thing to solve before morning. And you think, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just turn this off? I've thought about this a lot, and here's where I've landed. Or where I'm landing, I should say, because I'm still in it. My nervous system isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it does for a body in the middle of significant change. It's staying alert, staying ready, waiting for something solid to hold on to. The problem wasn't the alertness. The problem was that I kept reading it as failure, as you're not handling this, as other women manage this better, when really something was just adjusting, rerouting, making room, not breaking, building, quietly, without applause, without any signal to confirm that's what was happening. Other women are in this too. They're just not saying so. We have language for breakdown. We have language for burnout. We have language for obvious crisis. We don't have great language for the quiet, sustained experience of being a capable woman who is navigating a significant internal transition while still paying her bills, still showing up for the people who need her, still doing it reasonably well, and feeling underneath all of it like she's in a room where someone moved all the furniture and she keeps reaching for things that aren't where they used to be. We don't have great language for that, but it's real, and it's not failure. It's adjustment. There are seasons when the life you built stops being the container and becomes the question. When everything that used to answer the deeper things stops answering. Not because you did something wrong, not because you chose poorly, but because you grew. because you are still asking the deeper questions. And you won't let yourself settle into a version of yourself that no longer fits. That's not a problem. That's a life that is still alive. I've been thinking about what it means to avoid your own space. When I first got to Texas, before I found where I am now, I would leave in the morning and not come back until late. Home Goods, Marshalls, Ross. Walking the aisles for hours. And I told myself I was furnishing, settling in, doing the practical things. But I was 55 years old, and I didn't know how to go home to a place where only I lived. That had never been a thing I had to learn. There had always been someone else's presence threading through the space. My mother's footsteps on the other side of the floor. My daughter's things in the hallway. An aunt. A shared wall. Something. And suddenly there was nothing. And instead of sitting with that, I went to look at throw pillows. I'm not judging that. Sometimes you're not ready to arrive. Sometimes arriving takes practice. So I want to tell you about the suitcase. It was in the corner of that hotel room. Medium-sized. Black. The kind you've had long enough that it stopped being just luggage and become a kind of companion. I've been traveling for several days, long enough that the rhythm of hotels had started to feel like its own kind of normal. The walk from the elevator, the sound of the key card, the particular smell of a room that's been cleaned but not lived in. And each time I checked in, I did the same thing. I pulled out just enough. Toiletries, one outfit. The rest stayed folded, waiting, ready to leave again. That's practical. You tell yourself it's practical. Why fully unpack for 3 days? But that night, I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at that suitcase and thought, I do this at home. Not literally. I have a home. I have drawers. But something in me had been living halfway unpacked for months. Books set down but not placed. A coat on the back of a chair instead of hung up. A bag by the door that lived by the door because putting it away would mean being somewhere, would mean arriving. Small signs of someone who had not fully committed to being here. Someone still keeping the option to leave open. And I don't think that was carelessness. I think somewhere in the middle of everything shifting, the work, the city, the version of myself I was outgrowing, I stopped fully arriving. Because claiming it felt like closing other doors. And closing doors felt like loss. And I'd already navigated enough loss that keeping the options open felt safer, even when the open options were mostly just wait. You can't rest in a room you think you're leaving. I want to let that sit for a second before I say anything else about it. You can't rest in a room you think you're leaving. Think about what your body does when it believes a place is temporary. The way you hold yourself slightly apart, the way you don't quite lean into the chair, the way you set things down instead of place them. It's subtle. You might not notice you're doing it, but the body notices. The body is always registering the difference between I am here and I am passing through. And when you're living as if you're passing through your own life, when something in you has quietly decided that the real life is coming later, that this is just the in-between, your body can't settle. It's waiting for an arrival that doesn't come from outside. The arrival is a choice, a small, deliberate choice. This is where I am. This is my life. Not the life that's coming. This one. Now. So that night, I unpacked the suitcase. Not because I was staying longer. Not because it made practical sense. Just because something in me said, you are here right now. Be here. I took out the clothes and hung them up. One by one. Not rushing. Just the small, deliberate act of hanging. The sound of the hangers against the bar. The fabric settling. I set the books on the nightstand properly. Not dropped. Placed. I moved the lamp to where I wanted it. Not where it came. Where I wanted it. A few inches closer. Warmer. I filled the glass by the sink and set it near the window. Not because I was thirsty, just because it felt like something a person does when they're actually in a room, actually there. And then I zipped the empty suitcase, set it against the wall, and something in my chest loosened by 1/2 degree. Not solved, not fixed, not even fully understood. Just a little more here. For tonight at least. For this room. This borrowed, temporary, not mine room that was, for this night, exactly where I was. I want to offer you something. Just one thought. Not advice, not a framework, just something that's been useful to me on the nights when nothing quite adds up. And I want to say up front, I'm still working out whether I fully believe this, but I keep coming back to it. So here it is. What if this is what construction looks like when it doesn't have a sound? I kept expecting the falling apart to look like falling apart. Loud, visible, a clear turning point. But for women like us, high functioning, self-aware, someone who has spent years learning how to keep going, the falling apart is quiet. It looks like a seam loosening. It looks like driving home and realizing you can't remember why you were hurrying. It looks like lying awake at 3 a.m., not with panic, but with this strange, spacious feeling, like a room someone just cleared out. Empty, clean, a little echoey. And the story we tell ourselves is, something is missing. Something is wrong. But what if it isn't missing? What if it's space? What if the clearing out is exactly what needed to happen to make room for what's coming? I want to tell you about the blue dragonfly. Before I came to Texas, still in New York, still in the house I'd shared for 30 years, I asked for a sign, an actual sign. I know how that sounds. But I was at the point where I needed something outside my own reasoning to confirm what my reasoning couldn't quite get to. A woman I trusted said, "Ask for something you wouldn't regularly see, but not something so unlikely it could never happen." So I asked for a blue dragonfly. I came to Texas. I saw dragonflies everywhere. More than I expected, even away from water. Red ones, brown ones, all kinds, but not blue. And I thought, okay, wrong answer. Maybe I got it wrong. Then I went to Houston to see my daughter. It was hard. The way things can be hard when the love is real, but the dynamic is complicated and everyone is carrying more than they're saying. I drove back to Dallas alone, and I want to be honest. I was depleted. Not dramatically, just that particular kind of empty that comes after you've given everything you had and it still wasn't quite right. I almost didn't go outside that evening. I almost just stayed in. But something made me take a walk. And when I turned to head back, there it was. One blue dragonfly, just sitting there. And I took a picture. Not because it proved anything definitive. Not because it answered the hard questions. But because it reminded me of something I keep having to relearn. The confirmation usually comes after the hard part, not before. Not when you're ready and watching for it. After. When you've done the thing that required the faith and you're tired and you almost went back inside. That's when it shows up. I'm still deciding if I fully believe that. But I took the picture and I'm still here. I think about the difference between a nervous system that's anxious and a nervous system that's adjusting. Anxiety says something is wrong. Fix it. Now. Adjustment says something is changing. Be patient. Wait. And I know the problem. For someone who has built her whole identity around being someone who moves forward, holding still feels like stalling. Holding still feels like falling behind. Holding still feels dangerous. But I keep asking myself, what if this is forward? What if this pause, this not knowing? What if this is exactly what forward looks like when you're between who you were and who you're becoming? I'm not certain of that. I want to be clear about that. I'm not standing on the other side telling you it all works out. I'm just saying it's possible. It's a real possibility worth holding on to when the other feelings get loud. I'm not asking you to feel hopeful tonight. I know it doesn't feel like construction. It feels like something being taken away before you know what's coming next. It feels like reaching for things that aren't where they used to be. That's real. You're allowed to feel that. I'm just asking you to let the other thing exist in the room alongside it. The quiet possibility that something is also being built below the surface in ways neither of us can see yet. The way roots grow before there's anything above the soil. The way winter holds everything before spring knows what to do with it. Something is shifting. Something is loosening. Something is rearranging. And you are still here. Still breathing. Still showing up. Whatever this is becoming, it is still you. Let's go back to the window. The hotel window. You don't have to be there literally. Just let the image hold you. The way a good story holds you when you stop trying to follow the thread and just let it wash over you. It's night. It's late. Later than it usually is when you lie down. The city below is doing what cities do at this hour. Quieting. Without going entirely quiet. There's a difference between night sounds and day sounds. Night sounds have space between them. They come and go with long gaps of quiet in between. A car, then nothing. A distant voice, then nothing. The low, steady undertone that a city makes, even when it's resting. The kind of sound that stops being sound after a while and becomes something more like texture. Something to rest against. She learned that actually. slowly. That the sounds of a city at night aren't intrusive if you stop fighting them. If you stop trying to block them out and just let them be part of the room. Let the distant siren fade without following it. Let the car on the wet pavement come and go without wondering where it's going. Just sound. Just the world. Continuing. Not requiring anything from her. Not asking her to do anything about it. Just here. Both of them. The city and the woman. The night and the lamp. The window is dark except for the lights below. Amber street lamps on empty pavement. The lit windows of other buildings. Some dark, some still warm. Other people, other nights. Other lives doing their ordinary business in the ordinary dark. The glass is cool. Not cold, just cool. The specific coolness that glass holds in the hours between midnight and morning. She puts her palm flat against the surface. Cool against warm. The weight of her hand. The steadiness of the window. She holds it there for a moment. Just that. The lamp is still on behind her. That warm amber light. Low, golden, diffuse. The kind of light that makes a room look like a room, rather than a space you're passing through. She's standing in the between, warm behind her, cool ahead. The night beyond the glass, the lamp behind. She doesn't decide which way to turn. She just stands, exists in the in-between. The suitcase is zipped. She did that earlier. It's sitting against the wall now. Quiet. Patient. A closed suitcase is a different thing than an open one. An open suitcase is still asking, are you staying? Are you going? What do you need? A closed suitcase just is. Takes up its small amount of space without asking anything of her. She looks at it from across the room and finds she likes it there. Finds she likes that it's finished. That one thing at least is closed. Outside, a light goes off in a building across the way. She watches the dark square for a moment. She thinks, someone just put the day down. Just like that. Just set it down and went to sleep. She doesn't always know how to do that. She's been a person who runs late into the night. One more thing arranged, one more problem turned over to see if it looks different from the other side. But that window is dark now. And whoever was there is somewhere softer. And the day is done for them. She turns from the window. The room looks different from here. More contained. More possible. The lamp. The glass of water near the window. The books placed on the nightstand. The clothes hanging in the closet. The zipped suitcase against the wall. Small things. Ordinary things. But she put them there. She decided. And there's something in that. In the small acts of deciding that she hadn't let herself notice before tonight. The bed is made the way hotel beds are made. Those clean, flat planes of white. The turned-down corner that someone did by hand during the afternoon. A small folded triangle of care offered by a stranger to a stranger. She finds she's moved by that. People do that. They arrange small kindnesses for someone they'll never meet. Without needing credit. Without needing to know the story. Just here. Let this be easier. She thinks about all the small kindnesses she's received and not fully registered. The way someone held a door. The way a friend sent a voice note on a hard Tuesday. The way her doctor took an extra minute to ask how she was, really, and waited for the answer. The world is full of these things. She hasn't always had the bandwidth to see them. The bandwidth gets used up by the managing, the performing, the holding it together. The bandwidth gets used up and the small things go unregistered. But tonight she sees the turned down corner. And tonight it is enough. She sits on the edge of the bed. The same edge she sat on hours ago. But it feels different now. Not a holding place. An arrival. She breathes in. The room has its own smell. Now. Not just cleaned, not just impersonal, slightly hers. The lotion she put on her hands, the faint scent of the clothes she unpacked, the cool air from the window she cracked open just a little, something almost like rain in it. She breathes it in. There's a particular quality to late night air when you've finally stopped. When the doing is done. When there's nothing left to perform or solve or produce. When it's just you and the room and the dark. The air tastes different then. Quieter somehow. More itself. She breathes it in again. Doesn't rush it out. There is a sound she's been hearing for several minutes without registering it. The climate control. A low hum. Almost below the threshold of hearing. but steady, constant. She listens now, the room keeping itself at the right temperature, working quietly, invisibly, to make sure she stays comfortable while she sleeps. She didn't ask for that. She didn't have to. It was already arranged. Someone, somewhere, decided this room should stay warm, should stay quiet, should stay safe. And it does. And she is here in it, without asking anything, without requiring her to earn it. Just safe. Just warm. Just held. Somewhere below, a brief laugh. A real sound. Warm. Unselfconscious. Then gone. Life. Continuing. Her life. Continuing. Even tonight. Even with everything unresolved and unnamed and still becoming. Her life is continuing. Quietly. Without asking her to have figured it all out yet. She doesn't have to solve her life tonight. That thought arrives without urgency. Just lands. Like something set down. She doesn't have to solve her life tonight. The decisions can wait. The clarity that hasn't arrived yet isn't going to be found tonight by lying awake searching for it. The questions are real. She's not dismissing them. She's just not going to answer them tonight. And that small, deliberate choice isn't avoidance. It's just wisdom. Or something close to it. She's still working out the difference. There are questions you can answer through thinking, and questions that can only be answered through living. Through moving forward into the next season, the next version of yourself you haven't grown into yet, but are already on your way toward. Lying awake at midnight, turning them over doesn't answer those questions. It just wears out the body that needs to be strong enough to live into the answers. So tonight, not the questions. Tonight is for the lamp and the cool glass and the closed suitcase and the turned down corner and that brief sound of laughter from below. Tonight is for being here. She slides her feet from the floor, lies back. The pillow is cool against her cheek. The blanket settles over her like a quiet agreement. Yes. Now. Rest. She looks up at the ceiling. Faint patterns of light up there. Reflections from the city below filtered through the curtains, moving slow, drifting. No urgency, no direction. Just moving the way things move at this hour. Because of the world outside. Because of the ordinary turning of night. She watches them without trying to follow them. They drift, she drifts. The lamp is still on. She didn't turn it off. She thought about it and then decided she didn't have to. It's soft enough. It keeps her company. There's something she likes about that. Being kept company by the light, rather than left alone in the dark. The light stays. She stays. The room holds both of them without asking for anything. Her body is heavier than it was. Not in an exhausted way, though there is that, but in the way a body gets heavy when it finally accepts that the day is done. The shoulders have dropped. When did that happen? The hands unclenched. The jaw loose. The chest rising and falling in those longer, slower waves that belong to rest. Her body knows what to do. It's known all along. It was just waiting for permission. You don't have to solve your life tonight. You don't have to decide. You don't have to know what comes next. You don't have to name what's shifting. You are allowed to not know. You are allowed to be in the middle. You are allowed to rest while the rest of it rearranges itself. You built something today, even if it didn't look like building, even if it felt like holding still, even if all you did was make it through. That counts. That matters. That is enough for one day. The lamp is still on. That's enough. The room is still here. That's enough. Your body is still here. That's enough. This night is exactly as long as it needs to be. This quiet is exactly as deep as you need it. This rest is available to you right now. Not after you figure anything out. Not after you feel more settled. Not after the questions have answers. Right now, as you are, in the middle of it. You are allowed to land. You are allowed to land. Not with answers, not with resolution, not with everything figured out. Just tonight. Just here. You are allowed to land here. The city is quieting. The light is drifting across the ceiling. The suitcase is zipped. The water is in the glass. The blanket is settled. Everything is where it needs to be. Nothing is required of you right now. Nothing. Just this. Just here. Just rest. You can rest. You can rest. You can rest. Good night.
The night was long. You held it all. Nobody saw, but you showed up. You didn't break, you didn't run. You laid it down and let the dark come. You made it through the night. That's not nothing. That's not small. You made it through the night. Still here, still standing. After all. Not fixed, not finished. Not afraid. Just here. You made it through. The questions stay, you let them be. You didn't need the answers, just to sleep. Something is shifting underneath the quiet. You don't have to name it yet, you don't have to fight it. You made it through the night. That's not nothing. That's not small. Oh, you made it through the night. Still here, still standing. After all. Not fixed, not finished. Not afraid. Just here. You made it through. Middle of it still becoming. Middle of it still becoming. That's enough, I'd still be coming. That's enough, I'd still be coming. Come back tomorrow.